Mexico has, in my opinion, very toxic masculinity, machismo over there. There's a lot of very antiquated views that I was not cool with growing up. But I had these two pillars in my family, my grandfather and my dad, who were very progressive, especially for Mexico and the way they saw the world. And I idolized them. And my dad was an artist and very much into classical art because he was an architect. And then my grandfather was a general in the Mexican army, and he was brutal. But I couldn't love both of them more. And so I got to see these two extreme careers, and they were very successful, and they were completely different. And I was torn between I want to be like my dad and I want to be like my grandpa. And I remember my mom going, "Why? Why do you have to pick between both of them? Why not become like both? Why don't you just grab the good stuff from each one?" And as a kid, I was like, "You can do that? Like you can just pick those things?" And so they became a huge influence. So anything I make, it's a character who's dealing with two ideas. And the character, this is in Maya and in Book of Life and in El Tigre, this character thinks he has to pick one or the other, when in reality, he can be both. And I remember, I'm a lot older than you guys, but when I was when I became a dad, I remember somebody telling me, "Well, there goes your career because you're either going to be a good artist or you're going to be a good father." And I remember going, "No, I'm going to do both. Like, who says you can't do both?" Like historically, just because a lot of great artists have been terrible fathers, that's I'm gonna, I'm not gonna fall into that. Uh, so this idea, and I've always witnessed it growing up, when you're told you're this or this, it's like when you're told either you're a good kid or a bad kid. In reality, that's not true. There's a lot of bad kids who are good, and there's a lot of good kids who do bad stuff. So I think we live in this moral, complex world, and the choices of what you do really define who you are. And that's why I love stories when characters do bad things for good reasons, or they try to do something good and it backfires and it turns bad. Like those are my favorite stories. There's a saying called "the road to hell is paved with good intentions," and those are my favorite stories. So I would say my biggest influence, and I idolized him when I was in school, uh, was Guillermo del Toro, the director. Right? He did Pan's Labyrinth. He did Pacific Rim. He did Blade 2. He did a lot of movies that I love. And when I was in school, I needed heroes that were people like me. So I gravitated towards him and Alfonso Cuaron, also from Mexico, and González Iñárritu, also from Mexico. So I basically, and I still have it here on my wall, this magazine article with the three of them, and they were like, these three Mexican directors are making it in Hollywood. And I, in my dorm, I had it on my wall, and I was like, if they can do it, they were like my holy trinity. I was like, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. And so eventually, after we made our TV show and Book of Life was in development, they said, who would be your dream producer? And so I said, well, Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro, I would kill to work with that guy. And I got to pitch him Book of Life. It was really hard to get a meeting with him. But at that point, our TV show had won 5 Emmys. So I always say, like, those 5 Emmys were just enough to get me a meeting with him. And once I pitched him the movie, he said, I love your TV show. I have two daughters, and we'd watch El Tigre together, and I'll produce your movie because I like what you done before. So it wasn't like he found me, or it wasn't like he took a chance on unproven talent. Like I worked really hard to get that meeting with him, and then he was brutal. I love him. He's a friend. He's a dear mentor, but man, he was brutal with me. And I remember at the time he told me, I'm going to be really tough on you because the way it works is either you feel pain now or you feel pain later, but you can't avoid the pain. And it's better that you get it early than later. right? And so he was really tough on me, and it made a huge difference. And he always, the best advice he ever gave me was, you can't control how much talent you have, but you can control how you spend your time. And you can control how focused you can be and how serious you are about what we make. So use your time wisely. And so I remember at that time I was like, I think I've been wasting a lot of time, like playing video games and doing a bunch of stuff that I probably, if I could go back in time, I probably would not do. And he really changed how I approach things. He taught me this thing that I still do today, which is I put more merit on the process than in the result. And the old cliche, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's basically that. As long as you enjoy the journey, the destination doesn't really matter. And what I was, now that I'm 49, I realize, yeah, the journey is important, but honestly, the company that you're with in the journey, that's what really matters. And that's your friends and your family and your loved ones, your partners. Like, that's what really, really matters.